What's up, guys? It's Lixers here again, and I'm bringing you some thoughts, some ideas that have been kind of ruminating in my mind all day. And as you can tell by the title, it has a lot to do with what's been going on with Fortnite recently. Um, just a forewarning: I'm not a professional. I am not very good at sound or video editing. I'm trying to make things a little fancy for you guys. I have Fortnite playing in the background. Um, Hopefully, give you guys something else to look at other than my face. Um, Tiny story here. I tried doing this while I was playing Fortnite and talking into the headset, but cannot do that at all. I lose my concentration. I just wanted to give you guys something visual to look at as I kind of gave you guys my thoughts, but I suck at doing that, so I'm gonna keep it like this. I'm gonna keep it simple. I jotted down some notes on my phone, and I want to start with the summarized version, the TLDR version of what I want to say. Because I know I can get a little wordy, I can get a little lengthy. I think for what I want to portray here, I think it's important to get into some of the details. But here's my solution. And I'll get into all the details later. I just want to give you guys just an understanding right off the bat what I'm trying to get to. So, my thoughts, very simply put, is Fortnite should put ground game into its playlist permanently as a separate mode as opposed to what the Fortnite we know as now. For those of you who don't know what ground game is, ground game was a limited time only mode that you only had 30 wood, 30 brick, and 30 metal. And it was basically all, and I believe there was less ammo as well, but I'm more focused on the reduction of the materials. But anyway, ground game was kind of a different way of playing Fortnite. It was a way where building didn't really come into play, so you had to get good with your shooting skills, right? If you're coming from a background of shooting, it's a great game to play. Anyway, TLDR. Fortnite should add alongside the Fortnite that we've grown to love, which is the 50 shields, 50 health per kill, the increased material gathering rate, the enemy dropping 50 on wood, brick, metal, all that jazz that we've grown to love that they just recently took out, that the community has this outrage about. They should continue that mode, solo, duos, squads, and continue the arena. Same thing across the board though, continue 50 shields, 50 everything, whether you're doing a regular solo casual game or an arena solo casual game. And then next to that, do a separate version which would be ground game, right? Solos, duos, squads, and possibly arena. And I'll get into that aspect of how that competitively can function. But that's my idea. Now let me get into the details of how I kind of came to that conclusion. Quick side note. None of this is statistic based. This is all my own personal opinion. This is all based on my own personal experience. I do get really bored sometimes. I have some downtime, and I will watch Fortnite videos of what the pros are saying. I know, I forget, Daquan. Daquan recently posted a note on Twitter talking about this, and it was wonderful. So I do a lot of research, just, mindlessly researching, just bored watching videos and watching whatever. So all this is based on my own analysis of the game, my own personal analysis of the game, other people's analysis of the game, and just people's collective opinions, and I'm putting them all together, and this is what I came up with. So let's get into my background. Let's get into my background. I've been playing Fortnite since before there were seasons. And I'm not going to get into the details. It's just from before there were seasons, so I experienced season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 8. The community has this love for, I believe it was season 3 or 4. Everyone says collectively 3, 4, 5. One of those seasons in that area, in that span of time of Fortnite, was the best era of Fortnite. Now, I understand where that comes from, but I don't think it's because of what we believe it to be. I think we attribute that portion of time that was so good in Fortnite to the cosmetics they added or the events that were going on. I forgot when the rocket ship was. I forgot when all these things were, but we tend to attribute it to all these the new things that they added, all these fancy things that they added, the cinematics. I think in reality, one of the things that we're missing is looking at what Fortnite is. It is a battle royale game in which that introduced building, the idea of building, and it's a completely new experience to play this game. It revolutionized something. I mean, it's one of the biggest games. It broke records. Fortnite did it all because of the mechanics of building. Now, dating back to season 1, 2, 3, I know I myself played kind of like camping in a bush, trying to be the very last one alive and seeing if I can 1v1 the very last person, just me and him, because my idea was to be the last person alive to win the game. Those ideas have changed over time, and I play pretty aggressively now, but I think the sweet spot of building, the sweet spot in which we were still learning how to build, we were still learning how to protect ourselves, and we were progressing, that was all in that utopia era of Fortnite, season 3, 4, 5, whatever you want to say. And then once building got ridiculously, the skill gap of building just grew tremendously, our love for the game started dwindling for some of us, and we start to not really enjoy the experience as much. We relate to those moments in time where we were getting good at building, and it was beautiful. Everyone was on the same kind of skill level. So with that in mind, let's take building and look at that in terms of the equation of Fortnite by itself. And I think it's important to look at, most video gamers come into Fortnite from a background, a history of first-person shooters. So most gamers like the idea of shooting and getting kills, and most of them are fairly good at it. I mean, some people come into it, they don't know how to do that, so it's like a double learning process for them. They have to learn how to do that and then learn how to build. But shooting and killing and all that is pretty normal. It's been done before. So most people coming into this are very content with being able to do that. Add mechanics like building into the game, it's a whole other world. There's a whole other group. It's a whole bigger skill set that starts to happen. And it makes the game unplayable for the newcomers. And that's kind of what Epic had to deal with when they made this most recent change. Is they needed to cater to both audiences, the people who have been playing forever, the veterans, and the newcomers. Because what started to happen was the skill gap of building increased so significantly that you're a newcomer, you come into the game, and you get absolutely stomped by anyone who's able to even build themselves a little one by one. That person will stomp you because you're new to the mechanics. Now, the skill gap has increased so much that person, the newcomer, will lose interest completely when it's just constant, just losing to these professional players, even the casuals who have gotten so good at building. And I know this because I've tried to introduce this game to many people who don't like the idea of the mechanics, and they just quit. They can't get into it, and I understand them because I can't imagine going into a game and I get frustrated getting stomped, and I know how to defend myself. So fast forward to what I'm trying to say here, and I haven't even looked at my phone, so there I am, I'm ranting, I'm getting off topic. So I think it's important to change our perspectives as to why that's the sweet spot, and how does Fortnite use that knowledge of why that portion of time was so special to people, and how do they take that and shift the game towards that experience, not so much what it's evolved into and how it just continuously just evolves into something brand new. Let's revisit the origins of what's making it such a wonderful game. And I think Epic is trying to do this. It's trying to cater to both, but it's doing it in a manner that's hurting the game itself, right? Because it's losing streamers, it's losing pro players, and it's just getting so much flack from the community itself that this isn't cool. You shouldn't have reverted it. So, ground game. Here's where ground game comes into play. Now, ground game was a game mode that catered more to the person who didn't like building. Now, I went onto the forums of ground game because I was really curious about what people thought about it, and it's a very polarizing view on ground game. There's a lot of comments that I've read that love the idea of ground game, and then there's those people who question them as to why do you even play Fortnite if you're going to play ground game. That's not Fortnite, right? That's just like any other typical battle royale. And I think those polarizing views is what Epic is dealing with at this time. It's the pros who love the mechanics of building and want to just perfect it in editing. It's just gotten insane, to those who come in and go, no, that's way too much. That's too crazy. I can't do that. I can't even compete against that. And this is your solution. You've been so bold, right? And I'm going to get into another topic here, which is what's making Epic look so bad. In the history of games that I've played, in the history of companies that I've dealt with, Blizzard being one of them, World of Warcraft, Overwatch, dating to so many different things, Epic is the first company that I've seen that caters to their audience almost immediately. Right? If the audience is so discontent with a certain mechanic of the game, the rockets dealing damage to the walls, I can give you tons of examples. They revert those things. The sword itself, they revert it within hours, days, right? I've never seen a company do that. And I think one of the things Epic has done is given the community faith in them. But it's also shifted our perspective of what Epic is to us as a company. Right? We love them for doing that, but I think we also become very upset when we don't like something. We voice our opinion and Epic ignores us, because that's what every other company does. And I think the error Epic did there was they were way too forgiving with the community. They were way too kind of giving to the community, and when they wanted something, they gave. And when they didn't want something, they took it away. And I think now they're starting to have to make some big decisions in terms of what's going to make them the most money, ongoing money, and what's going to keep their game alive. And that's the newcomers, right? But it's also the streamers, it's also the pros, it's also maintaining your old player base. And I think every game goes through this era, but I think Epic is dealing with it, dealing with all the pushback from everyone, because we all have this perspective that, well, it's Epic. If we voice our opinions, they'll revert it. And they haven't. And now we're kind of angry with them. We're like, well, how can you do this? You're the company that does it whenever I ask, and I asked, and you didn't. And I think Epic made a mistake there. I think they needed to be a little more like the other companies in a way, right? Save face and kind of make the changes when they felt they needed to, not when the community ranted and made a huge problem. Anyway, I think what Epic needs to do at this point is kind of reshape the way we view Fortnite. We view it as this mechanically skilled, building mechanics, skill-based game, and it's very difficult for newcomers to come into this game and say, yeah, I love this game, but I'm getting stomped, right? They need that progression that most of us had starting before Season 1, and learning how to build alongside others and learning how to kind of protect themselves alongside others instead of someone ramp rushing them like crazy and stomping them and editing at them out of their little box that they built and just messing them up. There will be no growth for the newcomers. They will leave. So they need to do something, and I think ground game is the best option that they have, because that's going back to the roots of the mechanics. And you're creating, and here's the beauty of what I'm thinking, is you're creating two different Fortnites, right? And you're still catering to your audience that loves the idea of building, but there's the aggression, right? They're worried about the aggression, but that will exist on that playlist of, solos, duos, squads, arena, solo, duos, and you get 50 shields. You love it because you've been in the game, and then you do that separate ground game playlist of solos, duos, squads, and its own arena, and suddenly we have two different ways of playing the same game. Suddenly we're seeing two different gameplay styles, two different metas that are being created at the same time, and it becomes interesting. It not only caters to the new and the old, it also caters to those who love breaking down games in the meta and watching pros talk about their strategies in certain situations and really learning from them, because the game changes completely. It shifts completely when you take away the material building. Now, I think the beauty of ground game is you still do have materials to build, but they're used more for protection than they are for aggression. And with that, you have to use the landscape of the map a little more. Natural high ground, natural cover, whether it's a tree, whether it's hiding in a bush, whether it's hiding in a home, whether it's hiding in one of the buildings and peeking out. And it might slow down the game to a certain extent, right? But it also might speed it up. It might speed up the ability to go chase a kill and know what locations are good locations and moving with the storm. It goes back to the roots of what a battle royale is feeling that nervousness that the storm is coming on you and needing to move. Nowadays, people will kill themselves, kill each other in the storm, and they don't care. They'll bandage up, and you can still do that, but there's this more urgency to the idea of, I don't have cover, so I have to move into the storm quicker to find natural cover, because I can only build so much. I can only protect myself so much. And if the other person who's pretty good tries to ramp rush you, they're putting themselves in danger of not having materials to protect themselves after that ramp rush. So the meta completely changes, the play styles completely change, and I believe if you integrate arena mode into all of this as a ground game arena mode, you might even see competitiveness in a completely different style, right? In a completely different end game. No turtling, or maybe there is turtling, depending where the circle ends up in, and depending on what buildings are around or what buildings are not around. And that completely changes the way you play the game, the way you think about the game. Anyway, I think that's the beauty of what I'm saying, is you will create an environment in which Fortnite is thriving for the veterans, and Fortnite is growing for the newcomers. They can play ground game. They can get into that, and it's just an idea, right? You can modify this and add some more builds to it, and I think eventually the people who play ground game, once they get a hang of how to protect themselves, will go into the regular Fortnite and try protecting themselves and defending themselves with the little bit that they know, and they'll soon grow, and they'll eventually have their own sweet spot in which they don't remember it, they don't recollect it as a certain season, but they recollect it as a certain achievement that they have for themselves. Yeah, oh man, I ramp rushed this guy, I trapped this guy, I built around him and was able to trap him. That person is slowly learning how to navigate the game like a professional would. There will be a higher middle ground. There won't be this huge skill gap in which there's just the worst of the worst and the best of the best, and everyone in the middle just hates the game. There will be this progression. You will have, and you'll give the community what they want. I think that's what you've been doing. Do it again, right? I think what we truly want, a lot of us haven't really understood yet. I think this is what it is. The mechanics of building. We want to play a battle royale and continue having the mechanics of building. Give us both. Give us a battle royale without, or with limited, and give us a battle royale with, right? And maintain the 50 shields, 50 health. Looks like I went overtime. Again, I apologize if this was lengthy. I just kind of wanted to give you guys a better understanding, a full understanding of my thought process on this. It's just an idea. I kind of wanted to rant. If you guys have any suggestions, or if you think my idea absolutely sucks, let me know, man. I want to hear other people's opinions. I would love to get into a discussion with everyone. And hey, if I can get this to Epic and some type of change like this happens, I would love playing ground game. I had so much fun playing ground game, and I would love playing the original Fortnite with the 50 shields, 50 health. You know what I mean? I think it caters to everyone. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves.